Hello, everybody. How are we all doing today on this NHL playoff edition of Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner on the 93rd show here? Welcome to my show today. We are live in Baltimore, Maryland, hot and hazy, which is home of the Baltimore Orioles and the Baltimore Ravens. Oh, who's excited for today's show? I hope you all enjoyed your weekend, ladies and gentlemen. For the next 58 minutes or so, No Filter Glenn will be on air, and you better fasten your seatbelts because some of the things I'm about to say on here ain't gonna be so pretty for the next hour. Because we've seen all the NHL qualifying round games unfold, and now it's time to get ready for the first round. But before I can talk about the first round, I feel like there are a couple of topics about hockey that I have to dive into before I can get to it. Let me start with this. It's never a good idea. My parents always once told me, spend wisely with your money. Don't go wasting all your money just because you like the new shiny toy or because you think it's going to help you later on when it really doesn't. That's the predicament the Toronto Maple Leafs face themselves right now, and the Toronto Maple Leafs have to blow this up. The Toronto Maple Leafs have to break up the core of Austin Matthews, Mitchell Marner, and John Tavares. And they also had to put in either Kasperi Kapanen, Andreas Janssen, or William Nylander in the mix as well. Sportsnet said it as best this morning on their website. They must give up their all-offensive identity. And yeah, the defense was better in this series against Columbus, but it wasn't enough. You mean to tell me, ready for these contracts that I looked up? Okay, Austin Matthews. $11.364 million through 2024-2025. John Tavares, $11 million through 2025-2026. William Nylander, $6,962,366 million through 2024-2025. And he also has a 10-team trade list. Mitchell Marner, $10,893,000 through 2025-2026. Kasperi Kapanen, $3.20 million until 2022-2023. Andreas Janssen, $3.4 million until 2023-2024. You have to trade. I'm going to say you trade Marner and Kapanen. Or Marner and Nylander. This whatever is going on in Toronto is not working. It's simply not working, and they have failed to reach the next round once again. And no, the NHL is not going to try and save your behinds with the Alexis Lafreniere sweepstakes tonight, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. But the Toronto Maple Leafs are in shambles once again and have to get back to the drawing board. Haven't won a playoff series since the early 2000s in a 7-game series against the Ottawa Senators? You mean to tell me Toronto has all this offensive talent, and yet they can't win a stinking round because they face teams in the playoffs like the Boston Bruins and Columbus Blue Jackets that love to smother the daylights out of them. And that's what you got. Toronto had more talent than Columbus did, but I knew Columbus was going to win this series in 5 games just because John Tortorella knows what he's doing. And my Uncle Frank said this at best yesterday, that Peter Laviolette or Gerard Gallant will be the coach, and I wouldn't be surprised. Although I think that Kyle Dubas, the general manager for the Maple Leafs, isn't going to do that because those two seem to be, I wouldn't say butt buddies, but they're very close friends with one another. They are close friends, Dubas and Sheldon Keefe, but Sheldon Keefe has to trade 2 of those 6 players that I mentioned. You trade 1 into 3 of Matthews, Marner, and Tavares, and you trade 1 of the 3 of Janssen, Kapanen, and Nylander because it's not working. Or if you keep all 6, you have to get a coach that's going to force them to play a two-way game and to get tougher because it's not working. As I've said the last few times, you simply cannot do this anymore if you're Toronto. It's a failed experiment. You know what this is like? It's like you're doing a science experiment. You're mixing up you're basically mixing up a bunch of chemicals and you mix up the wrong chemicals. That's what this experiment has become for the Maple Leafs. It's become a complete disaster. It's been a complete, utter nonsense. Ridiculousness. That's what it's come down to with the Maple Leafs. And also, very interestingly about a contract situation, Frederik Andersen's contract's off the books after next year. Oh, and by the way, he gave up another bad goal once again in the third period. And it also happened against the Bruins for the last 2 years. Do you bring in Henrik Lundqvist from the New York Rangers? Do you bring in Matt Murray for the Pittsburgh Penguins? Are those options for the Leafs? Because maybe you got a better chance winning the cup with those two rather than Freddie Andersen? Is that what it takes? And I know my Uncle Frank, we discussed this. Freddie Andersen, maybe not the guy. Even though I thought Anaheim maybe made a mistake getting rid of Freddie Andersen instead of John Gibson. Maybe now we're seeing it. But this is utterly ridiculous by the Leafs. And there were some funny tweets about that yesterday. Someone's like John Tavares is washed up. Did the New York Islanders win a playoff series in Toronto before John Tavares did? The Islanders advanced once again with Tavares. My uncle Frankie was funny. It's like $33 million between the big three. And you can't even perform in a big game. Oh, and they also lose to a Zamboni driver. Don't forget that when they lost to the Carolina Hurricanes during the year. And that Zamboni driver actually happened to work for the AHL team in the Toronto Marlies. But let's not be fooled about what the Maple Leaf state is this morning. The Maple Leafs got to figure this out. And they got to figure out the right chemistry. And they have to make sure the right chemicals mixed. Because if the right chemicals don't mix, you know what happens. The experiment blows up in your face. And that's what's happening with the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. Because if they can't get this experiment right, then their championship window is going to close sooner than expected. Why do you think some teams want it more than others? Toronto doesn't. I wouldn't say that Toronto doesn't care. But the Toronto media is going to unleash more fury than I am probably. What I'm saying is probably nothing compared to what the Toronto media has to say today. And let me say this. Could you imagine that game in front of all the Toronto fans at the Scotiabank Arena? Toronto Maple Leafs fans and their players better be like, thank God we didn't play in front of these fans. They would have been killing us. They would have been booed, heckled. It would have been a complete disaster. Had the Toronto Maple Leafs playing in front of fans. It was, why oh my. Now let me get to the game. So from the 3-0 win by the Blue Jackets yesterday, so here were the goals that were scored. Zach Werenski, 6:29 mark in the first period. They were up 3-0 until he got hurt in Game 4. And that climax was absolutely crazy. I'll get to the climax of that series in just a minute. Second period, no goal scored. Third period, Liam Foudy on a bad angle shot, assisted by Gustav Nyquist and Seth Jones. And then at the 11:40 mark, Werenski was 6:29 in the first. Nick Foligno scored an empty net goal with 23 seconds remaining, unassisted, 19:37 mark. And let me just say, the heart, beat, and soul of the Columbus Blue Jackets. And you also got to give credit to Tortorella for getting his guys ready to roll. And this Blue Jackets team is looking to make strides once again in the playoffs. Jonas Korpisalo must love Sundays because this is the second consecutive Sunday that Korpisalo pitches a shutout with 33 saves. And as for Frederik Andersen, only had 19 saves. So here's the climax of what happened. Game 1, Korpisalo had a shutout for Columbus in a 2-0 win. Game 2, Frederik Andersen had a shutout for Toronto in a 3-0 win. Game 3, the Maple Leafs had a 3-0 lead and blew it all sky high. Jonas Korpisalo's pulled in favor of Elvis Merzlikins. He stops all 22 shots faced. Pierre-Luc Dubois scores a hot trick, including the game-winner 1:36 remaining in overtime. Game 4, Columbus had a 3-0 lead. Toronto ties it with 22 seconds left in regulation on a goal by Zach Hyman. Austin Matthews scored a game-winning goal for the Maple Leafs with less than 7 minutes remaining in overtime nonetheless. And then in Game 5, we obviously see what happens. Jonas Korpisalo with the 33-save shutout. And the Columbus Blue Jackets win the series 3-2. That's what we leave it at here with the Jackets. Though, nonetheless. Next up, Lafreniere. Who's getting Alexis Lafreniere tonight? In the NHL Draft Lottery, 6 o'clock on I almost said ESPN. NBCSN, excuse me. The way they did the draft lottery, my brother, my dad, and my Uncle Frank simply couldn't understand how this was done. What basically happened is that before the NHL resumed play, they just did a draft lottery for the worst 7 teams. Because the 7 worst teams didn't land the number 1 pick, they have to do a second drawing tonight, and it's all very confusing. It was very confusing from the start. Who is it? The New Jersey Devils, the Ottawa Senators. Well, the Ottawa Senators had it twice because they had it from the San Jose Sharks from the Erik Karlsson trade. Los Angeles Kings. Who else had it? The Anaheim Ducks also had a chance. The Detroit Red Wings and the Buffalo Sabres. So those were the teams that had a shot, but they couldn't get it. So now here are the 8 teams that have a chance to land Lafreniere tonight. New York Rangers, the Florida Panthers, the Winnipeg Jets, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Minnesota Wild, the Nashville Predators, the Edmonton Oilers, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. So those are the teams that can land Lafreniere, and he's a winger. 52 games with the Rimouski Oceanic this year. QMJHL, 35 goals, 77 assists, plus minus a plus 41. In my opinion, let's see who I think are going to be the favorites to land him. And I'm going to get to, and I'm not trying to be a little biased here, but I'm going to give you my conspiracy theories on why this one team is going to land the number 1 pick in tonight's draft. Let's see. The least favorite, I think, to land the number 1 pick is going to be the Nashville Predators, although I think they could use them a lot. I think Nashville could use them. I think they need offense. But the NHL's not going to give it to Nashville. I don't see Nashville getting the number 1 pick. Another team I don't see getting the number 1 pick, the Florida Panthers. You really think the Florida Panthers are going to get the number 1 pick? Come on, those two are out. I don't think the Edmonton Oilers get it, even though there's Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. But the Edmonton Oilers have had enough number 1 picks. Not the New York Rangers. They've been in the lottery too much lately, too. I don't see them getting the number 1 pick. Toronto Maple Leafs just had it with Austin Matthews, but then yet again, New Jersey Devils have, 3 first overall picks like in the last 4 or 5 years? Who knows? So that leaves it at my 2 favorites. Actually, the 3 favorites. My 3 favorites to land Lafreniere tonight. The Minnesota Wild. It's a hockey town, and I couldn't agree more with my Uncle Frank on that. The Winnipeg Jets. I think they could use him. And I think, with times going rough in Pittsburgh right now, And with it being a very rare year, with the Penguins being in the draft lottery, I can see very well the Pittsburgh Penguins landing the number 1 pick. Now, I have a few reasons why the Pittsburgh Penguins will land tonight's number 1 pick. Reason number 1. Sidney Crosby was the number 1 pick in 2005. So he's 33 years old. His birthday was this past Friday, 8/7/2020, born in 1987. Number 2. Crosby played for the Rimouski Oceanic in the QMJHL, and so did Alexis Lafreniere. Number 3. Lafreniere was once teammates with Pittsburgh Penguins prospect Nathan Legare, who may be on the roster next season with other potential guys like Samuel Poulin, Kalen Addison, and Pierre-Olive Joseph, though nonetheless. And there's a 4th reason why that the Penguins will land the number 1 pick tonight. Just like in 2005 was unprecedented times for the NHL because they had a lockout, this is unprecedented times too for the NHL. This is the reason why the Penguins, I think, are going to land the number 1 pick tonight. And I hope they get it. That would be nice. But if it's not them, I'd like to see Winnipeg or Minnesota get the pick. So, speaking of the Pittsburgh Penguins, I don't know how many of you guys are in the New York market or live in the New York area, because I want to say something about the New York area. Anytime after football or basketball or baseball season, they're probably the only ones that do this. I felt like I wanted to do this for today's show. For Pittsburgh Penguins fans, non-Pittsburgh Penguins fans, or whatever else there is out there. Here's a game I'm about to play with you all before I jump into my first round series preview. The game is called Keep 'em or Dump 'em. What they mean is you vote on the player. Do you want the franchise to keep him, or do you want the franchise to dump this player? And that happens a lot in the New York market, in the New York papers. And boy, oh boy, I love to play this game. And the only ones I did not ask were Sidney Crosby, Jake Guentzel, and Evgeny Malkin, because you're obviously not going to get rid of them. So, here we go. Here are the players that I said, and here's what the people said. Brandon Tanev, 100% said yes, keep him. 0% no. Brian Dumoulin, 100% keep him. 0% dump him. John Moreno, 90.9% keep him. 9.1% dump him. I couldn't agree more with those first 3. Nick Bukestad, 66.7% said keep him. 33.3% said dump him. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Jared McCann, 80% keep him. 20% dump him. I'll agree there. Chris Letang, 66.7% keep him. 33.3% dump him. I'll disagree with the fans. Jack Johnson, 0% keep him. 100% dump him. I'll agree here. Tristan Jarry, 100% keep him. 0% dump him. I'll agree here. Matt Murray, 0% keep him. 100% dump him. I'll disagree, although I think he's on his way out. I think it's more 40-60. Justin Schultz, 50% keep him. 50% dump him. I think he's out the door. I think this is right. But maybe because of the poor play of Jack Johnson, maybe that's regressed his game. We got to see what management thinks. Chad Ruedel, 50% said keep him. 50% said dump him. Mark Recchi, 33.3% said keep him. 66.7% said dump him. I couldn't agree more. Mike Sullivan, 33.3% keep him. 66.7% dump him. The fans are wrong here. Because it's not Sullivan's fault. I could understand why they think this because of their stubbornness. But, no. He's a good coach. General Manager Jim Rutherford. 66.7% keep him. 33.3% dump him. I'll agree. Jacques Martin, assistant coach. 100% said keep him. 0% said dump him. I'll agree here. Sam Lafferty. 100% keep him. 0% dump him. I'll agree. Anthony Angelo. 100% keep him. 0% dump him. I'll agree. Jason Zucker. 50% keep him. 50% dump him. I think this is more of a 75-25 or 80-20 proposition. Maybe even go 90-10, 95-9. Teddy Bluger, 100% keep him, 0% dump him. Brian Rust, 100% keep him, 0% dump him. I'm more in the 50-50, 60-40 proposition here. I like Brian Rust, but I'm not sure if he's definitely 100%. And I know there were some 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 votes. The most I got was 11 with John Moreno, but the Silda fan spoke. Patrick Marleau, 66.7% keep him, 33.3% dump him. I 100% disagree. Here, they should just let him walk. He completely disappeared. Connor Sherry, 100% keep him, 0% dump him. No. Other way around. I don't want him. I don't think he should be brought back. 66.7% keep him for Patrick Hornquist and 33.3% dump him for Patrick Hornquist. You know what? I know this only got 3 votes, but I actually could see that proposition. Because I'm curious to see if they're going to trade him or buy him out of his contract in the offseason. That was the bad loss they took against Montreal Canadiens 2-0. They didn't show up. It was Crosby's birthday. I mean, it happens. They were upset that if they land the number 1 pick tonight, and I believe they're going to, but we'll see if they do or not, then I think the future may look bright for this franchise. Next up, drum roll please for the first round matchups of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So, the Eastern Conference matchups. The first matchup features number 6 seed Carolina Hurricanes versus the number 4 seed, the Boston Bruins. So this is a rematch of the Eastern Conference Finals from last season. Boston swept Carolina, and this year's going to be very much different. The Hurricanes look much better than the Bruins right now. The Boston Bruins couldn't handle the top-tier teams in round-robin play. What makes you think they'll be able to sustain with the rain, the winds, and the other debris that is heading the Bruins' way in the first round? This will be a Category 2 or a Category 3 storm, and Boston isn't going to survive it. The Hurricanes will be more hungry than the Bruins, and the President's Trophy curse has already arrived. I think the top lines of Andrei Svechnikov, Sebastian Aho, Teuvo Teravainen of Carolina, and David Pastrnak, Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand of Boston will cancel each other out. At the moment, the Hurricanes have better depth players than the Bruins. Carolina's got Justin Williams, Nino Niederreiter, Jordan Staal, Warren Foegele, Martin Necas, and Brock McGinn will be solid on the second and third lines. Boston's second and third lines don't stand out right now. David Krejci, Sean Kuraly, Jake DeBrusk, Charlie Coyle, Joakim Nordstrom, Andre Case, and Trent Frederick will need to be large in the series as well. Also, the Carolina blue line is better than Boston's blue line. Peter Mrazek may outplay Tuukka Rask. The backup situation is James Ryan versus Yaroslav Halak. Rob Brind'Amour is a better head coach than people give him credit for. Bruce Cassidy's a good head coach too, but he needs to wake up his troops. And this has a very interesting series in the making. The pick, Carolina Hurricanes in 6 games. Next up, number 7 seed New York Islanders versus the number 3 seed Washington Capitals. This is going to be must-watch TV and maybe the most interesting Eastern Conference matchup in the first round of Stanley Cup playoffs. Barry Trotz is facing his former team. Todd Reirden's now the head coach of Washington for the last 2 seasons. Capitals have better offensive personnel than the Islanders do, but New York may have better structure defensively. John Carlson's out this series will be a huge loss. Carlson's a major factor on the blue line. Carlson is the heartbeat heart soul of the Capitals blue line. And it showed in the round robin how much he was missed. And head coach Todd Reirden hopes that Carlson will be ready for game 1. Devin Taves, Adam Pelech, and Ryan Pulock are solid in New York's blue line. Anders Lee needs to wake up. Matthew Barzal and Anthony Beauvillier are starting to pop some chemistry together, and I have a gut feeling Brock Nelson will have a big series. Josh Bailey needs to wake up out of a slump too, though, nonetheless. The Washington Capitals top line, Alexander Ovechkin, Evgeny Kuznetsov, Tom Wilson, is going to cause major problems for the New York Islanders. Nicholas Backstrom, Jakub Vrana, TJ Oshie, Ilya Kovalchuk will be key depth guys for Washington, though. The difference in this series will be Braden Holtby will outplay Semyon Varlamov. And goaltending is a key part in this series. And in the playoffs, it's like having a quarterback in football. These two teams also met in the 2015 Eastern Conference quarterfinals, and the Washington Capitals won that series in 7 games. The pick, Washington Capitals in 7 games. Next up, number 12 seed Montreal Canadiens versus number 1 seed Philadelphia Flyers. The shocking first-round matchup in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Carey Price stole the show from Montreal against the Pittsburgh Penguins, and Price played well. This time, Philadelphia plays with more urgency with more speed and skill. The Flyers are young and hungry, with Alain Vigneault in his first season as head coach with the Philadelphia Flyers. Philadelphia has not won a playoff series since the 2012 season in 6 games against the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Philadelphia Flyers last played the Montreal Canadiens in the 2010 postseason as an 8-7 matchup in the Eastern Conference Finals. That was the year the Philadelphia Flyers lost to the Chicago Blackhawks in the Stanley Cup Finals in 6 games, though, on the Patrick Kane goal in overtime. Montreal will be gritty by their blue line by Shea Weber, Ben Chariot, and Jeff Petrie, but Philadelphia's forward group with Claude Giroux, Sean Couturier, and Jakub Voracek will be solid. Travis Konecny will be the X factor for the Flyers. Jesperi Kotkaniemi and Arturi Lehkonen will be X factors for Montreal. Carter Hart and Brian Elliott are solid at goaltending for the Flyers, though. Hart will be the starter goalie with Elliott the backup. The pick, Philadelphia Flyers in 6 games. Next up, number 9 seed, the Columbus Blue Jackets versus the number 2 seed, the Tampa Bay Lightning. This is going to feel like a lot different this season, this series. Columbus swept away Tampa last year in that Eastern Conference quarterfinal series. And I remember the Lightning having a 3-0 lead in game 1. You're like, my dad and everyone's like, oh, this is going to be a sweep. Remember my Uncle Frank, too, was like, oh, this is going to be a sweep. And no, it didn't turn out that way, and it happened to be the other way around. And the Lightning, as head coach John Cooper said it best, we didn't have it for those games last year. We'll see how this is going to work this year. If it does work, hopefully for the Lightning they find their revenge, then it will be great. But if it doesn't work, then it's going to be in their heads. And the Columbus Blue Jackets feel like they're playing with house money again. As for the Lightning, they feel like this is now, you got to do something and win. Because the window, it's win now for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And they may not have defenseman Victor Hedman or centerman Steven Stamkos for this series. Hedman's got a foot issue and Stamkos has a lower body issue. Tampa Bay will not let happen again what happened last season. I'm sure what my dad, my uncle Frank, and other people can't wait to watch this series. And as head coach John Cooper put it at best, 3-goal leads aren't safe. Well, he's right about that. Tampa Bay won the President's Trophy last season. They want to pull off a University of Virginia story with UMBC and Texas Tech, though, nonetheless. Jonas Korpisalo will be the goalie due to Elvis Merzlikins being injured right now. Matthias Kivlinkis will be the backup. Nick Foligno, Zach Werenski, Pierre-Luc Dubois, and Seth Jones versus Ryan McDonough, Nikita Kucherov, Brayden Point, and Zach Boskine for Tampa Bay. Andrei Vasilevsky will be between the pipes. I wrote would be on my script. It will be the pick. Tampa Bay Lightning in 6. I'm giving a little more credit due here. Due diligence for the Columbus Blue Jackets this time around instead of disrespecting them. Although they kind of felt disrespected, they're probably going to be felt disrespected again, but they don't give a rip how you feel. That's why head coach John Tortorella is at the best at what he does, and that's why Columbus is where they are. Now the Western Conference. It's not as exciting as the East, but let's go with the number 8 seed Calgary Flames versus the number 3 seed Dallas Stars. This is going to be a very interesting series. Dallas has very good defensive structure with 2 very good lines, but do they have enough depth? So I'm curious to see. Uncle Frank, my dad, we'll see if they watch this series. It'll be fun. Calgary has more speed and skill than Dallas does. Johnny Gaudreau, Sean Monahan, Matthew Tkachuk, and Sam Bennett, I think, are better than having Tyler Seguin, Joe Pavelski, Jamie Benn, and Corey Perry. The Stars may have a better blue line than the Flames. Miro Heiskanen versus Mark Giordano, what's this going to come down to? The question is if Ben Bishop doesn't suit up, can Anton Khudobin slow down this attack? I'm not sure if he could. Cam Talbot may be the better goalie in this series anyways, and that is only if Ben Bishop doesn't play. David Rittich is the backup for the Calgary Flames. Jeff Ward versus Rick Bowman, not Rock Bowman, is a solid coaching matchup, though, after Bill Peters and Jim Montgomery were fired earlier in the season, though. I think this is the one series out west that you're going to see the lower seed win. This is the way how I think it's seeded. And the way the matchups are, the pick, Calgary Flames in 6. Vancouver Canucks, number 7 seed, versus number 4 seed St. Louis Blues. This could have been the worst possible draw for the Vancouver Canucks in the first round. Even though Vancouver is beating St. Louis every single time in the playoffs, the St. Louis Blues are a veteran group, and the Vancouver Canucks are a very young and trying to learn how to win group. Elias Pettersson, Brock Bessier, Quinn Hughes versus Ryan O'Reilly, Vladimir Tarasenko, and Alex Pietrangelo. And Alex Pietrangelo, the captain of the St. Louis Blues and the heart and soul of that franchise. And let's see if the Blues can go back-to-back. If the St. Louis Blues happen to go back-to-back, then that would be great. If not, then it just wasn't meant to be for them this year. Jakob Markstrom may steal a game for the Canucks, but that's about it. I expect Jordan Binnington to be a beast in this series. The pick, St. Louis Blues in 5. Next up, number 12 seed Chicago Blackhawks versus number 1 seed Vegas Golden Knights. This is going to be an extremely weird series. Chicago has the experience, but Vegas is also fast and electric. Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews have been there before. Jonathan Marchessault and Riley Smith are carrying this team right now. I gotta slow down here. Max Pacioretty and Dominic Kubalik will be the difference in this series. As in, what I mean by that is that Pacioretty did not play for Vegas in the round robin. I thought he did. I saw it yesterday on the bottom screen and it said he didn't. And Pacioretty, they got in trade for the Montreal Canadiens. That was Nick Suzuki was also in that deal, and Nick Suzuki actually played well for Montreal against Pittsburgh. And as for Dominik Kubalik, he scored 5 points in the first game against the Edmonton Oilers, and it was surprising that both number 5 seeds in Edmonton and Pittsburgh were both eliminated. So, and Corey Crawford will be the goalie for the Blackhawks, but the question is, how is he going to fare against this Vegas Golden Knights attack? And then the Golden Knights are either going to start Robin Lehner or Marc-Andre Fleury in this series. And Lehner was with the Blackhawks earlier in the year, but then he got traded. It's going to feel weird if Lehner starts. Fleury's got the pedigree. And my uncle Frankie was talking to me last night. He was like, he was in the hockey group about Fleury, Lundqvist. People were like, Lundqvist is better than Fleury. And he's laughing. He's like, no, Fleury was the better goalie. The pick, Vegas Golden Knights in 5. Number 11, Arizona Coyotes versus number 2, Colorado Avalanche. This was surprisingly a 2-2 split during the regular season. Arizona has some veterans that have been there before in Taylor Hall, Phil Kessel, Michael Grabner, and Darcy Kuemper. As for the Colorado Avalanche, Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Gabriel Landeskog, and Philip Grubauer. I wrote has been there before. It shouldn't be have been there before. This may be the Colorado Avalanche's best team since 2001 when they won it all in 7 games against the New Jersey Devils. Rick Tocchet versus Jared Bednar will be an interesting and not goaltending matchup, but a coaching matchup. So those two, I'm curious to see how well those two Tocchet, who Pittsburgh should have never let go, but don't even get me started on that. And then as for Bednar, He's made improvement strides year after year with this team. Colorado went from having the worst record in the league until making the playoffs, losing to Nashville in 6, and then they won a series, then lost to San Jose in 7. This team's growing, and now this is the time for Colorado to win. Simply saying put, Nathan MacKinnon is the heartbeat and heart soul of the Colorado Avalanche. And he's just ready to put the team on his back. It is time for Nathan MacKinnon and the Avalanche, I think, to finally win. And then you got on the back end, Cale McCarthy with Gerard for the Avalanche. And then for the Coyotes, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Nicholas Halmerson will be the key guys back end for the Coyotes. At the end of the day, the Colorado Avalanche will be too much to pick the Colorado Avalanche in 6. This was my first out of 3. Use promo code 12OZ Sports, all caps, for deposit bonus up to $1,000 for my bookie. So that's the first out of 3 that I will be mentioning today. And whoever listens to my show or like my podcast and other stuff live or later, it'd be like, I hope you're using my bookie. Go win yourself some cash. And since Sportsbet is like, I wonder how many people are betting. So now we move into, since I'm done with hockey for today, let me jump into the NBA. There are only 3 to 4 days left. The regular season ends this Friday, August 14th. And hopefully next Monday, I'm previewing the NBA first round to this audience. So yesterday, with the Portland Trailblazers winning, not the Memphis Grizzlies, the New Orleans Pelicans, and the Sacramento Kings have been eliminated from playoff contention. This is the 14th consecutive year that the Sacramento Kings are out of the playoffs. Is it time for Sacramento to move the franchise to Seattle? Probably, but I know maybe Kevin Garnett, who's looking to buy the Minnesota Timberwolves from Glenn Taylor, maybe he buys the Timberwolves and moves it out to Seattle, but I think Garnett kind of wants to keep the franchise in Minnesota. Sacramento's the 4th best team in California. You got the Los Angeles Lakers, Los Angeles Clippers, Golden State Warriors. You got to move Sacramento out. It's as simple as that. You have to move Sacramento out. And why do I say you got to move Sacramento out? Because if you move Sacramento to Seattle, then it maybe gets some better revenue, TV market. They'll put them on, the NBA will put them on TV. I think Sacramento's got to figure that out. And so the current standings for the 8th or 9th spot, Memphis Grizzlies 33 and 38. Number 8, Portland is number 9, 33 and 39, 0.5 games back. Number 10, San Antonio Spurs, 31 and 38. They're 1 game back. Phoenix Suns are 31 and 39, 1.5 games back. I'm curious to see how this is all going to wind up. Suns are scorching. The Spurs and the Trailblazers. Maybe the Grizzlies. I wonder what happens if there's like a 3-way tie like 8, 9, and 10. Or maybe 4-way tie of 8, 9, 10, 11. But then it's probably going to go down to, I believe the NBA commissioner, Adam Silver, just wants it like 8 and 9. So, that's going to be a storyline that's going to continue to fold as the week goes on with 5 games on today. With 5 games on today. And one of the key games includes the Denver Nuggets, Los Angeles Lakers, and also the Toronto Raptors playing the Milwaukee Bucks in potential Eastern Conference Finals preview. And with a ton of hockey on today, I probably will tune into more basketball today. I'll probably tune into more basketball this week with not many hockey games being on top of one another. And I know the hockey schedule got announced. So I'm going to share some of those recaps probably on Thursday with the first games being played. And then the NBA's got more stories as well, potentially for Thursday. But as I'm talking here today, I remember on Saturday night flipping on the Milwaukee Bucks and the Dallas Mavericks game. And then on Sunday, the San Antonio Spurs and the New Orleans Pelicans game. So the game Saturday night, 8:30 on ESPN with Dallas and Milwaukee. Giannis Antetokounmpo stats for the Bucks in that game. 34 points, 50% shooting from the field, 7 rebounds and 2 blocks. He almost fouled out. He was going to until Milwaukee challenged, and it was a foul on Chris Middleton, I remember. I was talking to my friend Yoni Aron, big listener of the show, big fan of the show. We were talking about a bunch of NBA. And he's like to me, oh, Giannis fouled out. And he's like to me, never mind. And we're just both happy that basketball is back. And then Chris Middleton, 21 points, 66.7% shooting from the field, 6 rebounds, and 11 assists. Brook Lopez stats, he also scored 34 points, 50% shooting from the field, 13 rebounds, 1 assist, and 5 blocks. Someone made a tweet that someone thinks that Giannis is going to lead the Milwaukee Bucks after the season, but there's also a lot of other interesting dominoes of people that may leave across the NBA. And speaking of Milwaukee, they were trailing against the Miami Heat on Thursday, but then they won that game. They were down by double digits and won by double digits. And then Los Angeles Clippers also played the Dallas Mavericks on Thursday, and the Clippers won that game. They're probably going to play each other in the first round. The Houston Rockets also beat the Los Angeles Lakers. Rockets didn't have Westbrook, and the Lakers didn't have LeBron, but they had Anthony Davis. But James Harden played much better than Anthony Davis. And let's see, with the Bucks, with Antetokounmpo, Bledsoe, and Chris Middleton. So Giannis, Antetokounmpo, LeBron are probably going to be the favorites for MVP. Although I don't agree with that, it should be Luka Doncic, because his stat line was 36 points, 50% shooting from the field, 14 rebounds, 19 assists, and 1 steal. Look, I know that the bubble games aren't affecting MVPs and other awards, but what Doncic is doing in the bubble is proving my point all year. That where would the Dallas Mavericks be without Doncic? They'd be a lottery team. And I know people are saying about LeBron, the Lakers, Giannis, the Bucks. No. The Bucks and the Lakers were expected to do this year. Please tell me again, if you actually thought that the Dallas Mavericks were going to be one of the better teams in the West, with a bunch of B and C players and not having any A players, although some people think that Kristaps Porzingis is an A player, but the truth of the matter is, Kristaps Porzingis is really more of a B-plus player than an A player. Although some people think that you may win a championship with that core, I'm curious to see how that's all going to work out in the immediate future. Dorian Finney-Smith's stats: 27 points, 52.6% shooting from the field, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, and 1 block. Kristaps Porzingis stats: 26 points, 37.5% shooting from the field, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, and 1 block. So, that's a very, this Dallas Mavericks team, I was talking to my friend Yoni about, we're like, they're not going to be able to draw Denver or like a Houston or a Utah Jazz or Oklahoma City Thunder in the first round, because maybe Dallas could beat them. But we know that most likely that the Dallas Mavericks aren't going to beat the Los Angeles Clippers in the first round. It's simply probably not going to happen this year. And so then the other game on Sunday that I watched at 3 p.m. on ABC was the Spurs beat the Pelicans 122 to 113. DeMar DeRozan, 27 points, 62.5% shooting from the field, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 steal. DeJounte Murray stats: 18 points, 35.7% shooting from the field, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block, and 2 steals. Zion Williamson stats: 25 points, 50% shooting from the field, 7 rebounds, 1 assist. JJ Redick stats: 31 points, 62.5% shooting from the field, 8 of 12 from downtown, 66.7% from the 3-land, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and 1 steal. So with JJ Redick, despite him shooting that from downtown, this will be the first time in his 13-year NBA career that he's missed the playoffs. Now, isn't that amazing that he's missed the playoffs for the first time ever? And also, Brandon Ingram scored 18 points for the Pelicans. And he's probably going to win the most improved player. And Doncic said, take my name off the most improved player list. And speaking of most improved, my friend, we were like talking about it. And it's like, what? I want to see how it goes. I mean, when you shoot 66.7% from the field, if you're JJ Redick, it's like, and he misses playoffs for the first time in his career, but that's the 66.7% shooter he is. So how rare is it for people to shoot 66.7% in the game? It's probably very rare, but he was just on fire yesterday despite the loss. And the last game that intrigued me was the Philadelphia 76ers to Portland Trailblazers. Portland has eliminated, as I said earlier on the show, New Orleans Pelicans and the Sacramento Kings from playoff contention. Ben Simmons is most likely out for the season for the Philadelphia 76ers after undergoing arthroscopic knee surgery, according to sources told ESPN. The Cleveland Cavaliers are monitoring the situation very closely, though, nonetheless. The Cavaliers feel like they have an interesting package with multiple first-round picks. Darius Garland. They are not going to trade Kevin Porter Jr. Maybe they trade Colin Sexton or Dylan Windler Jr. or maybe Larry Nance. They're not going to trade Kevin Love. Tristan Thompson's a free agent. Cedi Osman, maybe another interesting trade piece. But we'll see. And Joel Embiid hurt his ankle yesterday. And now it seems like things are going south for the 76ers rather than going north. And the Trailblazers beat the Sixers yesterday. The team is toast. And general manager Elton Brand will have a lot of decisions to make this offseason on whether or not he needs to keep Brett Brown as the head coach. And also, does he trade Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid, though, nonetheless? Use promo code TroublesZ Sports, all caps, for deposit bonus up to $1,000 for my bookie. So moving on to the MLB for the final 7 minutes. The Houston Astros and the Oakland Athletics had a benches clearing brawl after Ramon Laureano was pegged in the back. The Houston Astros bench coach, whoever was out in the dugout, Laureano and him, they were going at it and everything broke loose. And the truth of the matter is, the Houston Astros are 100% showing their true colors. Because the Houston Astros, and I said this before the year began, that the Houston Astros were not going to be a better team this baseball season than the Oakland Athletics. Because the Oakland Athletics have the best record in baseball right now. And the Oakland Athletics want to win the World Series, and they actually got skill and talent. And maybe we are seeing between our own very eyes that maybe Jose Altuve, George Springer, Carlos Correa, and Alex Bregman, and potentially some others, like Yurli Gurriel, and Kyle Tucker, and Josh Reddick, may not be as good as advertised. Because they may not even make the playoffs, and you can't blame Dusty Baker. It's not his fault. You know this was going to happen to the Houston Astros this year after what happened. It's not a surprise that this is happening. I mean, the A's are just playing this game. Supposedly it happened earlier in the series with Laureano. And I guess Laureano had enough BS with it. And Laureano was like, okay. And everyone's like, who gives a rip about social distancing? And if Rob Manfred suspends Laureano instead of the Astros bench coach, then he kisses. Let me say this on live air. That MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred kisses the behinds of the Houston Astros. And he has dirty photos of that franchise because he thinks they can do no wrong. And yes, I just said that, but I really don't care. You know the song? Oh My by Demi Lovato, I really don't care. So it's like, they don't care. So I'm curious to see how it's all going to work out at the end of the day. And speaking of working things out, the Cleveland Indians sent home starting pitcher Zach Plesac, breaking rules, and now he will be quarantined. Plesac decided party was sent home to Cleveland. They were out in Chicago playing the White Sox. He's a big part of the rotation along with Shane Bieber, Mike Clevenger, Carlos Carrasco, and Aaron Civale, though nonetheless. Baseball has been extremely weird this season. The St. Louis Cardinals continue to be quarantined. And they have not played since the end of July. They have only played 5 games this season, though, nonetheless, and their series against the Pittsburgh Pirates has been postponed. This is why they're going to have win percentage for the MLB postseason, and I think it is really unfair for the teams that have played all 60 games to the ones that didn't. Maybe that's why that Major League Baseball maybe should have had a bubble rather than just playing at these ballparks, but I guess it's better than nothing, and we are just like, you just got to play through it. I was like, just play through it, and maybe I'm kind of losing disinterest in baseball because of what's going on right now, but like, I guess, yeah, baseball is still better than nothing. I thought they were going to cancel the season. Looks like they're not going to now. We thought maybe it was just a media scam. We're like, okay, let things calm down. Let's take a deep breath. Let's just relax. The words of Aaron Rodgers, RELAX, relax. And then everything will be okay. And I guess baseball's been okay. It just happened to be the Miami Marlins are back in business. I'm happy about that. And the St. Louis Cardinals, I don't know what happened with the Cardinals. I don't think the Cardinals partied like the Marlins did. And I called for the Marlins to be disqualified. I don't know what happened to Cardinals. They maybe just got bad luck when they were coming back on an airplane. That's maybe what happened. I know the Cardinals didn't break any rules. I gotta say that the St. Louis Cardinals maybe more unfortunate than Miami Marlins. Miami Marlins were careless and reckless. Cardinals were not reckless as far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think they were reckless. And if they were reckless, then we don't know about it. It was never been reported. Lastly but not least, the MLB standings, and let me go through them quickly. American League East. Top team, New York Yankees, 10-6. Baltimore Orioles, 7-7, games back 2. Tampa Bay Rays, 8-8. Games back 2. Boston Red Sox, 6-9. Games back 3.5. And Toronto Blue Jays, 5-8, games back 3.5. American League Central, this is probably the best one. Minnesota Twins, 10-6. Detroit Tigers, 8-5, games back 0.5. Cleveland Indians, 10-7, 0.5 games back. Chicago White Sox, 8-8. They are only 1.5 back. And then the Kansas City Royals, 7-10, 3.5 back. Oakland Athletics, top team in the American League West, 12-4. Texas Rangers, 6-8. 5 games back. Houston Astros, 6-9, 5.5 games back. Seattle Mariners, 6-11, 6.5 games back. In Los Angeles Angels, 5-11, 7 games back. I'm disappointed in them. National League East, number 1, 7-3 Miami Marlins, 0.5 games back. Number 2, 11, Atlanta Braves, 11-6. Number 3, the New York Mets. Number 3, New York Mets at 7-9. Number 4, Philadelphia Phillies, 4-6. 3.5. Number 5, Washington Nationals, also 3.5 back, 4-7. Chicago Cubs, 10-3. Milwaukee Brewers, 6-7, 4 back. Cincinnati Reds, 7-9, 4.5 back. St. Louis Cardinals, 4 back. And Pittsburgh Pirates, 8.5 back. National League West, Colorado Rockies, 11-4. Los Angeles Dodgers, 11-5. San Diego Padres, 9-7. San Francisco Giants, 7-10. Arizona Diamondbacks back, 6-10, 5.5 back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time here. Thanks for tuning in, Guns Dynamic Sports. Coming up, you all enjoy the rest of your day. I will be back on the air at the same time on Monday. I'm not Monday, on Thursday. So I will have more topics about the NBA, NHL, and MLB. Use promo code 12OZ Sports for all caps for deposit bonus up to $1,000 for my bookie.